This is the You Killed It podcast, Challenge podcast, episode 251, talking about the Challenge USA, season 2, episode 4. Yes, I saw your face when I said 251. Yes, somehow, some way, we've gotten to episode 251. And I know the voice off the top sounds a little different. I don't even know how we normally start this pod, but my name is Sheldon Alexander, joined with a special guest this week on the pod. My guy, friend of the show, friend in real life, brother from another, longtime listener, longtime fill-in guest host, my dude, Mr. Lawrence Thomas. LT, how you doing, man?
Oh man, that was quite the intro. That's quite the intro. I almost feel like I have to be decent or something.
No, the rules here is you just be yourself. Right? When are John and I ever decent? There's a lot of things that you don't
get to 251 without it.
I don't know if that's true. I really don't know if that's true. But yes, this is the You Killed It podcast, recapping the challenge. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, all that fun stuff, wherever you happen to be listening to this pod. I like to say it all the time. The way that you support is just with clicking the like button. Super easy. We're not asking too much, right?
Nah, man.
John is off on assignment. That's how I'll say it. I think he's at a wedding. I'm not sure.
He definitely was at a wedding on the weekend. I don't know where he is today.
Yes, because he sent me a photo. He did send me a photo that I was like, as only John can. And yeah, we'll just leave it there. But yeah, in the meantime, between time, my guy LT's here. Longtime listeners of the pod will know this because you get brought up a lot on the pod. And the reason for that is because I'll always appreciate the text messages, or maybe it's the tweets that we'll get every once in a while. Well, you'll just blatantly call me out for something that I've said on the pod.
Tap on the
and
shoulder.
I enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot.
I'll even give the our listeners the little behind the scenes of we work together. Oftentimes you're in the office, and I would literally be coming in to work after listening to the podcast. So I'm coming in already mid conversation, unbeknownst to you, because you're not actually live in the car. So I'm listening in the car, get in parking, come in and see you and continue talking. We're still you were actually I was on the podcast with y'all.
Yes, correct.
Yes,
that's correct. But now we get to do it live. And I feel like I want to start here just overall. What are your thoughts on this season so far? Before we get into episode 4, are you enjoying this season of the Challenge USA?
Yes, they clearly got the notes. They clearly have read a lot of tweets as far as their last year iteration of Challenge USA CBS thing. They brought in more of the MTV regulars. The setup seems to be better. The challenges are less Survivor Big Brothery and more some authentic challenge going on. I think they turned down the danger a little bit as far as compared to MTV challenge. Is still a little lower, but that's fine. They're doing enough. They're doing enough. They've made the improvements, they made the adjustments, and it seems like it's working. And the second hour helps, as far as going 2 episodes a week. While it is a big commitment, at the same time, it's still the same amount of TV time.
Yeah, and it's better than if they put that all together into one big episode each week. It is better split up like this. I will agree with you there for sure. Yeah. They ended last episode on a cliffhanger in which Johnny Bananas gets the big win. And I don't know if you're on my side here, where we're happy to see Johnny Bananas still in the game just because he provides some level of entertainment.
I am. I mean, I like it when Oh,
it's okay. It's okay. We got a guest. We got another guest host on the pod, Mr. Lyric Thomas.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't.
There's no. Hold on. Yeah. As I always say, you just never know what's going to happen here on the You Killed It pod. We get a surprise guest, which is always welcome, right?
With one LT, you got 2 LTs. You got 2.
Amazing. Amazing. We got some snacks. We got some apples, so we're all good now. No bananas though.
No bananas, right?
We were talking about bananas.
Yes.
Are you okay with bananas being back?
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, I do enjoy when he gets like watching Bananas lose is always
Mhm.
kind of like fun, but it's good for the show. It's good for like to see what he's gonna, how he's gonna try to weave his way
Yep.
through another season and stuff. I always find it funny watching Bananas get upset, like he did in the last episode, like
Yeah.
because there's this weird, you know, when he's talking about like loyalty and this and that. I'm like, man, but does it pay to be loyal to Bananas? Is my question.
It's an interesting point.
I mean, Leroy's sitting at home with a big fat 0 in the win category, right? Like, and he was his most loyal friend. Like, like
totally true.
So he gets the Bananas gets the legacy of the 7 and all this stuff, and like his closest friends really don't ever really win. So I'm not mad at Corey for doing whatever, for looking out for himself, because at the end of the day, Bananas is out for himself just the same.
Very true. Dusty seemed to be out for Bananas as well,
Ooh.
writing like a love note to Bananas here. That was like some heartwarming stuff there. One, are we okay with Bananas reading that letter on TV? Because it seemed kind of like personal, and like it's not like we got the confessional from Dusty talking about this either,
Yeah. I'm torn. I want to say yes because it happened on the show. More like, I know he's like even though he put it in his bag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I won't lie. Part of me is wondering if it was actually real. As in, Bananas doing a little producing himself and just like the sentiment was real enough and all that stuff. But was there an actual, note? I asked the question whether or not, but because it was a funny bit. So why not? It opens itself up to some embellishment, I'll say.
Yes, it was very much a great bit, and also gave us the title of this episode, which will be "Are We in Love?" But as we move forward here, more drama going on because Josh, I don't know if he's trying to follow suit with what Bananas did last week in terms of just trying to blow up, add some spice into the house, call out some people.
We didn't say where Bananas chose. That's the cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, true. Sorry, my bad. See,
no worries.
See, way to go, LT. Bananas makes the great move here, where Bananas decides he's going to switch teams, and he's going to give a little payback to Corey by switching teams with Corey. Do you like that move from Bananas? Because I thought it was a genius move.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty predictable and pretty what's what I'm thinking of. It was a fairly straightforward move. Going from a weaker team of red flags to presumably the strongest team in the house.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to remember who are the other guys on the blue team, because I mean really, like if you're taking super long game, like why not keep Corey? Like like he's a very good player, right? Like like maybe and just weaken the red flags even more. I'm trying to remember who else could he have sent?
Chris is on that team.
Yeah,
but Chris is also a good competitor, so I wouldn't have taken away Chris.
Right.
Fessy, obviously. Yeah. Sebastian is on that team as well. Maybe Sebastian would have been a move. He's a pretty good player, but
might be upset about that. I guess I guess there wasn't a lot of options.
But I think he's also he knows that he can't work with Corey. Right. So if there was a world where he thought maybe I can repair this relationship with Corey and Fessy, then okay, I'm going to go onto that team, get rid of Sebastian. Now I'm going to try to curry favor with Fessy and Corey and at least pretend like everything's cool. But I feel like they kind of know everything's not cool.
The funny thing, I think it's more. I think it's more bad. It's more on him. It's more on Bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think as far as Corey goes, he doesn't have anything against him. He just thinks that, hey, I'm at the bottom of your list. Like, I'm not gonna win by just riding with you. So like, I gotta do what I can. But he has no ill will, right? So that's on him. I guess that's a Bananas problem.
So. Speaking of Bananas problem, there's a Josh problem in the house.
Oh, God.
And if Josh has a problem, then everyone in the house has a problem. That's what we've learned, not only from Big Brother, but also from the challenge. And I don't even know really where this came from, Josh's anger, but he's going at the Big Brother folks about how they don't really talk to anyone else. And then when Other people come around, they kind of like scurry off into their rooms and huddle up. And he says, that's how Big Brother is played. That's how Survivor is played. And he starts coming at Desi and Lewis, and he doesn't care. But my thing is, what kind of strategy is this? Right? Like, who is this? How is this benefiting Josh or anyone?
I don't know. All I could think of is there stuff that was on the cutting room floor that because it seemed out of the blue. It seemed like just super paranoid Josh, like, they're gonna come for me next, and I'm just gonna like raise havoc and hide the pots and pans and all that stuff. Like it made no real sense except that it was Josh doing Josh things.
The pots and pans. That's a great one.
I honestly was confused. I was confused at how riled up he was over nothing really. Nothing has actually happened. Like basically over the thought of something possibly happening.
Yeah. So they cut it this way, but I don't think it was actually about this, but we get a scene with Desi.
Right.
We get some insight into Desi.
Yes.
And I'm going to be honest, when I saw a scene like this, it made me think, oh no, is Desi about to get eliminated in this episode? Right? Because normally, as I think of like old school challenge and how that works, you always get a little background story about the person at the start, and then they become the focal point, and then maybe they're eliminated, and it's like, yeah. So I saw this, and Desi, it made me feel real bad because John and I have been talking all season. Desi is one of our favorite people on the show. You feel bad for how last season ended with Mr. Meow Meow not even wanting to go into the water. And now she comes back, and everybody knows Desi is stunning. She's extremely attractive, but beyond that, and more importantly, she's like really good people's, right? She's a very good player. She's a good competitor. She's loyal to her crew. And the weird thing here was how much she was struggling within the house.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that I didn't really get or understand. But when she laid it out, it kind of makes sense. No, like you have all these people telling you how great you are. And if you don't think that about yourself, you're kind of like, wait, what's happening here? What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't say it, but essentially it sounds like she's just suffering from some imposter syndrome.
Ooh, okay.
Right. Like, so they basically the basic of that is that you don't believe you're deserving of the success that you have, right? And so like and she showed like she won pageants, she's doing very well professionally, and all, and yet she always feels like this like they're gonna find out that she's not really as good as they think that she is, right? And so it's a real thing, and she's definitely appears that she's just suffering from it, really. And so like I that was my first thought right away, is that like, oh, just of course it does make you kind of root for her more, because like on a show full of egos and people who can't even justify how good they feel about themselves, like that can't do, right? Especially on like the men's side, you got like you got the Fessels and the Joshes who like just swear up and down that they could win stuff and don't do anything, right? And meanwhile, you have this, you have this great person who is successful and doesn't even believe that she deserves it, and doesn't even can't even enjoy her own success.
Yeah. And that's a part that made it tough, but it was also cool because I feel like the big point of that scene as well was building up the relationship that she has with Tiffany and Chanel, right? Because they were able to be there for her, to listen to her and tell her that, hey, this being in this house is tough. Right. And there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be ups and downs. I forget which one of them was like, I've already broken down and cried twice. Like that's going to happen in this house, because it's just a weird, super weird scenario that us sitting at home, like we think we get it, but we don't really get it, how difficult it is to be so isolated from your family and the real world, to just be stuck with these like insane people, right? You're trapped in the house with these people for like how long? Like that would be strange. So yeah, that was an interesting thing. But let's get to the actual, like the drama, the big event, the challenge of the day, sideswiped. You
Right.
have two players and you're hanging in between two double-decker trucks, and you have pieces attached to you, and you have to basically reach across to the other side of the truck, place your team colors on the corresponding color on the opposite end of the truck. But you have to do so by going through your opponent, which adds a little bit of drama to this. So I thought this was super interesting. And then our guy TJ comes in and says, winning today is more important because
Bam, bam, bam.
double elimination. We love it. We love it.
Yeah.
So this whole event, what did you think of this challenge? You mentioned earlier that you've been enjoying the challenges so far this season. What did you think of this one, this daily challenge?
I mean, you know, we got some classic challenge elements, speeding trucks.
Yeah.
Speeding trucks and swinging. These are classic elements of the challenge. So some vintage stuff for the people.
Yep.
I liked it. I liked it that it wasn't that you could choose kind of like whether or not you're going to play defense, because we definitely saw a couple of the rounds where they just kind of like were just trying, that both teams were just trying to get across and
get as many points as possible. Yeah,
exactly. And it wasn't until like maybe someone dropped something or whatever that they like, okay, I gotta like stop the other guys or whatever, right? Like, yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
How do you feel like you would do with this challenge? I feel like you would do all right in this.
I mean, I won't lie. I feel like I would do okay on a lot of challenges.
Yes.
But I'm just that guy. Until I'm in over my head, I'm like, sure, I can do this. Why not?
I could definitely see you doing this. That's the funny part. Like, I could definitely see you doing this and thriving and just like launching from one side to the other side, like, and you know, the play of the day for sure was Chris and Corey when they were going back and forth. And Chris did the whole, I use this reference, and this is a very Toronto reference, but this is, you know, it's the Woj, but I'm saying it's a Scotty Barnes and not Adrian Wojnarowski, but Woj, the Duke college player, slamming his hands on the ground like, I'm going to play defense. And Scotty Barnes, I remember, it wasn't last season, it was the year before, trying to do the exact same thing. Like, I'm about to play super hard defense on Cade Cunningham, and Cade Cunningham just like blew by him right after. And I remember being like, what are we doing here? But anyways, Chris is talking mega shit to Corey. Like, I'm going to play defense. I'm going to stop him, blah, blah. And Corey essentially dunked on him. Right?
My dude, what are you doing here? Casey, we're supposed to watch your apples.
I ate them all.
Okay.
You ate them all?
More, and I'm not watching it anymore.
Okay.
And I'm turning
Aw.
the right off.
Okay, but I need you.
All
to
the
go
apples are gone?
watch.
To the viewers at home, this is a You Killed It podcast, and anything goes. There are no rules here. As we're talking about Corey dunking on Chris, Lyric dunking on us again, love it. Love it. That's for John. That's for John.
But honestly, that moment, like the moment it happened, then Corey, like I'm like, okay, Corey's he's like, oh, you don't want this. Like, I'm like, how is this gonna turn out?
Okay.
It could not have been any better. Like,
it was so good.
I was like, on the head top, on the head top.
LT was there, like, give me a live 2 reaps. I need a slow reaps, a real time reaps.
All of it. I was dying. I was like, because I knew I was coming on air today too. So I was like, oh, we got something. We got some stuff.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff. And we keep talking about classic challenges. And I thought this was the first time in a long time I've seen the show devolve into old school challenge where we see some interesting gamesmanship, I'll say.
Yep.
And the blue team is losing big.
Yes.
And they realize that they're better served helping the red team win, because they believe that if the green team wins, they're going to try to throw them in. So Chris comes up with this idea, quickly spreads it among his team that, hey, we need to just play defense against a green team to make sure that they don't win. And who is going up next for said blue team? None other than your man's Johnny Bananas and Tori. And does Bananas even pretend as if he's trying to like hide their game plan here?
No.
What does Bananas do, LT?
I honestly, I know it might be not an exact reference, but my first thought was that he gave the Bobby Schmurder and like,
he just tossed his pieces. Oops, my bad.
So or I guess the recent is the Alabama boat security guard.
Yes. The signal of all right, let's go.
I dropped my disc. I was like,
well played.
Oh my
well
goodness
played.
Gracious.
Bananas. So he just tosses them, and all of a sudden, Monty and Michaela, they're instantly kind of confused because they're like, wait, what's happening here? Yeah. And then it registers, oh, they're just trying to stop us.
Right.
But I liked both of their mentalities because they both were just kind of like, okay, this is what you want. Now it's on. And Monty's just trying to go at Bananas. You saw a little hair pulling from Michaela on Tori. And Tori's like, whoa, don't pull my hair. That was like, you could tell they were both not happy. But are you okay? As a longtime challenge watcher,
yes.
What's your thought on these type of shenanigans where you're throwing challenges to try to overplay the game type thing? What's your take on that?
It used to really annoy me. I think I was okay with it this time because it's become less often, and the producers of the show they've kind of started plugging those holes so that like so people can't do these kinds of things too often. But you know, nothing's perfect, and every now and again an opportunity may present itself, and especially when you're playing in a 3-team kind of scenario, right? Like you do have an odd man out, and stuff like that could happen where it's like, you know, it was like we can't win anymore, and they at least they came out trying to win, and it just like as the game went on, now they're in a position where it's like, well, we're going to lose anyways, so how can we somehow get something out of this?
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting too. So the game ends, green ends up with 41, red ends up with 48. As we mentioned, blue threw it. Right. So that the red team red flag. I mean, it's almost fitting that that's how team red flag would get their first dub of the season, right? Because it's just total chaos on that team. But Wes, with maybe my line of the episode, I'm going to give my line of the episode here. Wes saying the green team, we lose because, you know, the blue team threw it, obviously. Wes says, quote, "It was brilliant. And in fact, it's because I was the inventor of that move a decade ago." Close quote. Shouts to Wes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, old man Wes I've enjoyed him a lot more than prime Wes, I guess. Like
he's definitely in the get off my phase of his challenge career for sure. But I'm enjoying it because there's he's almost like a proud papa watching the young challengers like, oh, they're starting to figure out the game. Well played. And even though it's like to his detriment, he still like appreciates the gamesmanship of, okay. Now we're playing the challenge.
Yeah. And because he doesn't take it personally, like
exactly
like other players, right? Like he says, it's just a game. It's just a game. You know, like they don't hate, they're not disrespecting me and doing all this stuff. Not about like they're just playing the game.
Mm-hmm. So I would love to hear from the people who aren't as familiar with the challenge, but who are watching this now because they're from Big Brother. They watch Big Brother or Survivor or Amazing Race or whatever. Because this episode, more than maybe any other episode of the Challenge USA, had more of the shenanigans, the tomfoolery, the downright fuckery, I'll say, from the normal challenge season. And what I mean by that is what we just saw in terms of purposely throwing a challenge to then this gamesmanship that happens in the voting process. So what happens here is you have Michelle's side of the house with Tiffany, Chanel, etc. They want Wes and Amanda to go in, but the vet side of the house, they really want Desi and Lewis. Josh now, as he's still in, I'm going to blow up this house mode, he goes to Wes and Bananas to let them know that, hey, people want to get Wes out of here. So I'm going to try to tie it up. And he says in the past, if you remember, if you're the tying vote, you're most likely going to get sent into the elimination. There's a chance where you could be sent into the elimination if you tie up the vote. But he says he's willing to die on that sword. Again, for the second time in this pod, I'm going to ask you, LT, what kind of strategy is this by Josh? What is he trying to do?
I do not. Well, I do not know because, and I wish I had to look up the actual number myself for the sake. I wish somebody else had brought it up. That Josh is going to be here, being like, I'm going to try to go. I'm not afraid to go in, yada yada yada, with his 1-5 elimination record. He's talking about how he wants all the smoke and so forth and so on. And I'm like, yo, but just pack your bags and go home then. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
It's so good.
Like, I wish I would just be like, okay, like when they had the deliberations, and he's like, and he's like, oh, I'm going to tie it up. I'm going to tie it up. Like, oh, okay, like, you sure you want to tie it up? Because last I checked, you lost a tug of war to a smaller person with one hand. So like,
he doesn't have the greatest reputation at all in eliminations. The weird thing about this too is if Josh just framed this whole thing that I'm just going to create chaos in our deliberation and I'm going to just wait them out, so that they cave, he could have looked like a genius here. Yeah, right. Because instead, if he's just talking about, well, I'm willing to go into elimination, that's a terrible idea, right? That is an actual terrible idea. But the good idea that he had was just creating chaos within their deliberation and making himself even seem like the crazier person than he was earlier on in the episode. And just by doing that and showing that you were going to hold fort, you wait out the other side who are not as experienced as this, and they're eventually going to cave. And that's what happened. And I thought it was super interesting because he turned it into a mess. The girls don't want to put Desi and Lewis in, but Josh makes a good point. And I thought the point that he made in trying to convince Michelle, like, okay, so this is our one chance that we got here. Red flag has struggled. We're finally here, and you're going to waste it trying to get Amanda out? What kind of power play is that? It's not a power move at all. And I think that actually makes the most sense. Like, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. No. He's not wrong at all. And I give Chanel credit because she was going back at Josh. She had some smoke for Josh, but I think she just didn't realize the weight class she was in, right? She wasn't going to be able to go multiple rounds with Josh because Josh's level is just on a whole different stratosphere. Right. But that whole mess of a deliberation, what did you make of that? Because the turning point was when I think this whole conversation flipped when Josh decided to open it up and he tricked them. I don't know if he did it intentionally or not, but it's like, if we don't want to vote for, if Amanda's off the table, if Desi's off the table, then who else are we voting for? And he's like, what about Cassidy? And then that's when they got caught. Cause like Cassidy was just such a random name to throw out. And still that's where he caught, who was it? It was Chanel, I think. That was like, oh no, not Cassidy. And that's where Josh was like, they have this sound machine that they play on the Joe Budden pod all the time. It's like a sound effect. And just a guy go, we got him. We got him. That's what went off in my head at that moment. Cause it's like, gotcha. You don't want to vote for Cassidy either. What are we doing here? Right. And that's when he kind of exposed the whole thing and they were caught. Yeah. Could they have come back from that after that point?
It seemed like, who was it that threw was it Chanel or no, it was Tiffany or I can't remember.
So Tiffany ended up being the one at the very end where Tiffany could have tied up the vote, but then she just voted for Cassidy to like end the whole shenanigan of who was going to go in, whether it was going to be all tied up or if it was going to be Desi versus
I meant the compromise. Because someone threw out the compromise, like, okay, we'll take one of them off the table. And
that was Chanel. I think that was Chanel. Yes.
Okay. Like it's like when that's what caught me is like when you can't like you let Josh come in here and get exactly what he wanted. Like and you're willing to compromise too. Like, I also found it interesting that Corey was pretty much like a non-participant. I mean, there was nothing in it for him, so that it made sense. But at the same time, just to see it, like just to see him be like, this ain't my battle, so I'm just gonna be like, whatever. Which was smart for him. It was,
Michelle made a weird move too, though, right? Because Michelle kind of didn't want to vote for Wes because she's still trying to do her thing where like, okay, I'm on this side with all the rooks, but kind of want to keep a foot in with Wes and Bananas just in case something pops off. at a certain point, I can point to this and be like, "Hey, I didn't vote for you."
Yeah,
That was weird.
I will say that, man, Tiffany let me down because, like, and the thing is, because she always kind of gets in these spots where it's like she wants to, because like when the pressure gets applied,
Mhm.
her game that's when it begins to falter. Like, the same thing happened with like the cookout, right? Like they got down towards the end there, and she was one that kind of made everything strained and stuff because she didn't want to like get rid of her pawn and all this stuff, and then was trying to like pull all these things. So it's like I felt that again, where it's like you throw some pressure on, and all of a sudden all these best plans just like they just fall apart, and that's what Josh was able to do, and it's hats off to him. Kudos to him because like he put on the pressure and they just folded. They completely folded.
Josh was just being louder about his move, his chaos. They were both being chaotic, but he was just louder about it. And when he had his moment, he's like, "Oh, is this how we play Survivor? Is this how we play Big Brother?" And then he just starts yelling. It's like,
and none of it made sense. None of it made sense. And one of those things where you need like a Jordan to just be like, "Dude, stop." Just you need somebody to like Jordan or CT or something like even I'm trying to think
there was no one else to counter Josh's energy.
No, there wasn't.
Right, like he was the loudest person by far, and so it's like the opposite of what they normally say. The loudest person doesn't always win. In this scenario, Josh was the loudest person, and he won just because of that. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm giving Josh credit because he played them.
No,
he played them in this scenario.
Honestly, I was gonna say that you queue up the Luther Vandross because this was his one shining moment,
right? But the other thing here, and the thing that's most important, no one actually knows what would happen if it was tied.
No.
Right? No, that's the biggest thing. Yeah. He just threw out this theory and everyone just kind of rolled with it like, oh yeah, we don't want to risk going in. But if, let's say, they were just like, okay, it's tied, that means all of you have one ball that goes in. Mm-hmm. That might be worth the risk of holding out.
Yep.
No? So like that's the thing that was still so weird to me, but credit to Josh. He played them. He played them.
Yeah. It is funny how every season comes and that's almost like the mystery box of every season that most of the time never gets opened is what happens in a tie. What's the plan, right?
So
and he can't assume anything. You can't. It could be anything from instantly going in to one ball in the hopper. Maybe they stripped them of their power. Maybe they just don't. Maybe who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. It was so interesting. I was also super interested by Desi's gameplay here because she's still, moving around the chess pieces. She wants to go against Amanda, but tells Wes that she wants to go against Cassidy because she doesn't want Wes to be knowing what her actual motives are. Yeah. And again, Wes is very happy to see this. As you said, he doesn't take it personally. He's just like, there's some voting shenanigans going on here, and I had nothing to do with it. Like, you could tell he's almost like happy about it. Like, there's part of him that feels like, I like this, right? Because he sees what's going on. I thought that part was really cool. What did you make of Desi's whole gameplay to get what she wanted in terms of going in versus Amanda?
It was brilliant. I mean, it's the classic, life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? Like, and so she was like, okay, I'm going in. Well, cool. She said it, control the things you can. So what can I control? Maybe I can control who I go against, or I can find a way to control who I go against. So I'm gonna tell everyone I do have friends. She does have a social game.
She has numbers
and all that stuff. So we're gonna get all the people to vote for Amanda, and everyone on my side, is gonna vote for Amanda, which there was clearly a lot, right? and that was that, and to be smart enough to keep that card closer and not tell Wes, and because she knows she could trust him, but you can't trust you should only trust him so much.
Yeah, and I mean, Amanda got 9 votes. I don't think we've seen a number that high in terms of a voting team, but Amanda got 9 votes, and Wes kind of loves the blind side, as I mentioned. But the other part that stood out to me was Chris got 6 votes.
Right.
And this is where it becomes interesting because you add in the elements, as I keep saying, of the old school challenge, of the shenanigans that they try to bring up here. My thought is, does this deter more of that happening? Because if you think about it, okay, the blue team threw it, but what did the rest of the house decide to do? Well, we're going to throw in you for messing up the game. So you probably don't want to do that again going forward, right? It's a huge risk.
That's the point. It's true. I didn't think of it that way, but it's entirely possible. Like
the whole house flipped against Chris.
Yeah,
and they were like, "You're not the whole house," but there were enough
Crazy.
numbers on the other side to be like, "Okay, well, we're putting Chris in because he messed up the game."
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah. When you think about it, it was mostly just the green, right? Because he had 6, right? It wasn't like the blue, like
yeah,
so
it was basically the green team.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. It could prove to be a deterrent. This whole idea that someone isn't instantly in, like the hopper, like sure, I could get a ball in there, but it doesn't guarantee, like we saw in the first elimination, right? Like that, like it's just a numbers game and all that stuff. So it's a deterrent, but at the same time, I mean, someone would be like, yo, like it's not a guarantee. Like I just have a ball in there, whatever, right?
Yeah. No, super interesting stuff for sure. Leading into,
I'm enjoying the randomness of like of how it could just destroy their plans.
So I want to ask you this though. Are we fully, I don't trust anything, right? Like I'm always from the viewpoint of the producers, just pulling whatever strings they need to, right? So I'm going to ask, we're trusting the hopper here? We're trusting the elements of the ball coming out of the hopper and it's all just random?
I think so. I think, like, I mean,
I'm trusting it. I'm trusting it still.
Yeah, I don't, because I'm always I like, of course, working TV and sometimes you got to line some things up a little bit and what have you. At the same time, there's you can't do certain things that would just throw the entire integrity of the game out the window. So you gotta just believe that the hopper is as advertised. Yeah. And so far, I mean, really, there's only been the one real upset, which was the first one, and then this one just played by the numbers, right? Like there was no shock here. Yeah. So yeah.
No, it's been pretty cool so far, and I think that is cool because it's like you can have the best, as you mentioned, the best laid plans, and then the hopper just messes it up. So there's always that part of the lottery ball, the ping pong balls going your way. So that's totally cool. But we get the elimination, Evil Eye.
Yes.
And this is basically just another form of, whatever they've called it before, the wishbone, or they called it tug of war, or pole wrestle. We've seen this before.
Yes.
You have the object in the middle, you get your 2 hands on it, and you got to just wrestle it away from your opponent and bring it outside of the circle. The different twist here is that there's only one round. Yes. Normally, in other iterations of this, it's been like best 2 out of 3. Something in that form. But with it only being one round, I found that a nice wrinkle, but I will also say a much better wrinkle.
Right.
I like it better being just one round.
Yeah. I didn't notice at first. I was actually like halfway there. I'm like, is it one or is it? Did he say? Should we wind it back and check? Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So going in, I thought it was pretty obvious that Chris and Desi were the favorites, right?
Yeah, agreed.
So I wondered when it first started. Chris, I thought against Lewis. Lewis, Chris played college football, so obviously, we've seen his size and strength already. Lewis, I didn't realize that he was a firefighter, but obviously that comes with a level of fitness and strength of his own. So he gave him a pretty good go. Who were you more impressed by, I'll say? Was it someone who won or was it someone who lost, whether it was the men or the women?
I think overall, like out of all 4, I was most impressed by Desi.
Okay.
Because I just didn't realize she was that strong. Like, because she was dragging her, right? Like.
Oh yeah.
So I'll say that I think as far as Chris and Lewis went, I think Lewis was just undersized. Yeah. In the end, like like in the end, he Chris had the size and the strength that came with it. But like Lewis did the absolute best he could, and he put up a really good fight. I think honestly, like that just came down to Chris being a pretty really good competitor and being bigger than him. Like he's bigger, he's heavier. He was clear, like it was a big ask for Lewis to do that, but he gave it a go. He gave it a good solid effort, and so did Amanda. As much as I am not Team Amanda,
we've had this discussion offline.
I am not Team Amanda. I think I'm not Team Amanda because in the end, for all she does, she doesn't win. And that's the point of the game. And all she does is set herself up for constant failure. Like it was, because here's the thing, it wasn't hard for Desi to get all those votes for Amanda. And sure, keeping her in as a potential layup towards the end, it could be a strategy. But she also makes it like, you're in this situation. You want this person here causing all this drama all the time. I just want some peace and quiet in my life, right? Like you're just like, so yeah. I just find her it's just too much for the little output she gets. And she sucked in the challenge today, and she can't swim. And it's just what do you do? What do you bring to the table, my friend?
So you're right. She did mess up in the daily challenge today for sure. People did give her a lot more credit.
I was surprised
for hanging on.
Yes.
Like I felt like people gave her a lot of credit for that, but I like what you said because I thought Desi did a really good job. Because at first, for a while there, I was like, "Oh no, Desi's going to tire herself out."
Yes,
right. Because there's strategy to this, right? Yeah. And if you look at the difference between the guys and then the women, you mentioned Chris's weight advantage.
Yeah.
Part of this that we don't realize is, you're wrestling for it. But if I'm on top of you as the heavier person, I am sucking that energy out of you. So you're Lewis. You've had Chris on top of you for a long time as well, while he's trying to rip it away. That consumes a lot of energy. The flip side strategy to that is Amanda, who clearly knew that she was at a disadvantage strength-wise, and she was just holding on for dear life and hoping that she could tire out Desi, and it just didn't work. No. Desi was just like ragdolling her, right, for a long time, and eventually, Amanda got tired, and that was that. Big win for Desi. Amanda, to me, you've listened to the pod, I'm Team Amanda. I think Amanda just brings drama and fun to the house, which is needed for me as a viewer. Like I like that still gives me old feels of the challenge. And you're right, she's not going to win, but she makes it entertaining.
I guess my thing is I would rather it come from a Smash League who brings all that and it, and competes for real,
That's fair.
And I know they're hard to come by and all that stuff, but when you're just I just can't have you there just to be, because even during the challenge, right? She's more worried about I just want here I am against Michelle again, and she's just carrying on this vendetta, and I know part of it is playing up for TV. At the same time, it's you're not just get, even if you got Michelle out of the game, what are you gonna do? And the funny thing is, oh my god, I was laughing because when they said it was double elimination, and it was looking like Wes and Amanda going in. I wasn't thinking that would be like the two separate competitions. I was like, maybe it would be a team. And so I'm I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this is what I mean. You're stuck with Amanda now. Now you're both gonna go home because you can't do anything. And then it ended up being the pole wrestle or the evil eye and all that. But that was my thing when they first said, I'm like, see that this is she's just too. I just find, even though the realness and all that stuff is fun and we enjoy the drama, you gotta bring some actual competition to the table.
Yeah, and she does end up getting in her own way because there's a world in which you could at least play along with Tori or play along with Michelle for a little bit and then turn on them at some point.
Yeah.
But being on the opposite side right away, it's just not a winning strategy at all, right? Because the vets are already in trouble, and so having infighting amongst them and wasting shots on each other is just a waste of numbers and a waste of power and a waste of, the actual goal, which should be to win. So I understand where you're coming from.
You play the game.
But I still will point to the same thing I sent you online.
No, you're not.
Are you not entertained?
And what did I say? I said no. I said no.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's okay. You know, we'll have her. She could come back and all. I would like to see her adopt just a different strategy, like and play to win. Which for her means that she needs to lie low. She needs to like not just pick every fight that comes her way, and try to get further in the game. Like just it's tough to see, like, because it's the same thing over and over again.
Also, too, I think she'd be better served coming on with more of her crew, right? Because she kind of comes in outnumbered. Because Michelle's not going to be on her side, Tori's not going to be on her side. You know, like she needs to come on with like Ashley or Marie, like her old school crew, right? And we haven't seen that in a while. But
it's true. The Lavender girls, Lavender ladies,
the Lavender ladies, yes. The crew was deep. I do find it interesting because we're 4 episodes in.
Yes.
And I feel like Fessy still might have said 4 words this whole season.
He is lying really low, or just not making the show right now. Like, it is interesting.
So are we okay with that? Like, or maybe this is kind of the CT, like what we've seen older CT do, where like you kind of just lay low, play your position in the background, and then just, you know, not make actual moves until you have to, and then just win.
Right. I mean, if it worked for him, it definitely I guess takes away a little bit from the show. Like speaking of, you know, what I'm saying is it is fun when you have these competitors who also cause
drama,
chaos, and all that stuff. So I mean, maybe he's taking too many off-season hits and so and so forth and so on. And and early in the show, it is a big house, so you know, it's easy to just kind of like lay back and all that stuff. I was just saying, one of the things that, because speaking of Lewis and Dusty, like, I need them to bring more Amazing Race people on, because more so because every season, the 2 seasons that started so far, it's only 2 of them, and they're instantly cornered and outnumbered, and it just doesn't seem fair. Either don't bring them, or at least give them 4. Like, what do you to do for both years, to have just 2 guys, these 2 Amazing Racers come in and just instantly be outnumbered, seems really just unfair. Yeah,
no, that's totally true. Totally fair. I feel like, is it just because Amazing Race, in terms of Big Brother and Survivor, Amazing Race is 3rd in the ratings race, like in terms of popularity? I'm assuming that. I don't know.
I don't know if it's
because I know I would assume that Survivor has the most ratings, then Big Brother would be my guess.
Yeah, for sure. And they run it twice a year too, right? Like, and all that stuff. I know when they first started giving awards for this, Amazing Race was the first one. They won a whole bunch early over Survivor. As far I think maybe the teams in Amazing Race tend to be like more all over the place as far as and all that type of stuff. So they might have just a lack of
the personality to handle the chaos that is this season of the challenge. But we mentioned the wins. Lewis and Amanda go home. Desi and Chris stay, and they have choices to make.
They do.
Chris decides that he's going to stay on the blue team. Desi decides that she's going to leave her team to join said blue team.
Yes.
Switch out with Alyssa S. Do you agree with both of those moves?
Yes. Because at the end of the day, you're playing for safety, and you know, like, while it doesn't guarantee anything, and we know the challenge has ways to leveling out the playing field.
Yep.
You know, at the same time, blue is clearly the strongest team, and therefore your best shot of being safe, especially if you're a strong player too. You just made them that much better.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So you know, why not play the best hand that you got?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The biggest key, and the way that you win by staying out of eliminations. And how do you stay out of eliminations? You win daily challenges. So put yourself on the best team. And we've said from the get-go that the best challenge team looked like the blue team. So joining them, great move. We've seen Johnny Bananas do it, and now we're seeing Desi do it. It's going to be interesting to see going forward as things come on, because if you're the red team red flag or team green, you would feel like we got to start chopping off and just make sure that the blue team doesn't win.
Right.
That should be the strategy going forward if, we're into these challenge games and shenanigans. So I'm interested to see how that picks up, and interesting to see how the rest of the season will play out. I want to ask you last question before we go here.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite in terms of who your picks are right now?
Yes.
Man or woman or both, if you have them, of who you think will win season 2 of the Challenge USA?
It's too early for who I think will win. It's not in the comment. It's just
so who do you want to win then?
I will tell you that 100%. Okay. For me, women is Desi. Mm-hmm. She's just too, as far as especially as a fresh face too. Even though second season, but as an overall fresh face, you just have nothing bad to say about her. She competes. She's smart. Mm-hmm. She she holds her own in every aspect of the game. Yeah, really truly. So so I would love to see her win. And honestly, I still ride with my dude Tyler from Big Brother. Yeah, I thought he played a fantastic game of Big Brother. Yeah. And only lost out of he definitely lost out of a more of a spike vote, not as badly as he lost to Casey. For those who don't know, he lost to Casey. But he had to he got a lot of heat, but he wasn't a player that was trying to do these things. He just found himself scrambling a lot, but he was able to do it. It was impressive that every week in, week out, he was the Big Brother threw all these twists and he just found himself caught in these situations, and he was just finagle his way out of it, and he did it from a very good positive space. He wasn't trying to screw people over and all that stuff. So I would love to see him win again. I'm trying to think of other I'm trying to think of if there's any just challenge people who I would love to see Wes just find a way, somehow scrap and claw his way. Yeah, it'll be too tough, man. The target is just too big on him and Bananas, right? I don't see them in a scenario where they can win again, man. It's just the target is just too big on their backs, and they would need some level of buy-in from Corey and Fessy, which they don't have. So I think Wes could get it from Corey. Yeah. I think Wes could get it because Corey just wants to know that that you're gonna ride with him too. He just doesn't want to be on the bottom of a pile, right? That's all. That's he doesn't have an issue with anybody. So we're not rooting for Josh. I'm joking. No. I know that's it. I will say this. I was this close. I was so close to giving him my MVP. Well, funny you should say that. Because here's where the question comes. Who won this episode for you, Mr. Lawrence Thomas? Oh, it's still Desi. She performed well in the challenge. Mm-hmm. She overcame some personal struggle. Yep. When things didn't go her way, she didn't just throw the pity party and all that stuff. She took control of her situation. Yep. And then she won the challenge. She won the challenge and made a move and made a move to a stronger team. So who won the episode? Well, who won the episode for me? I'm finding that this is very strange because we're in episode 4, and I've already said that Michelle has won episodes, and now I'm going to say that Josh won this episode because I definitely think that Josh did win this episode. I don't want to do this because I'm not a Josh fan, but at the end of the day, somehow, and I know that it didn't work out perfectly for him because Amanda got eliminated, but at the end of the day, his back was against the wall. And he ended up flipping this whole thing and getting his way in terms of Desi having to fight her way in to win, Desi and Lewis, when really there shouldn't be a target on either of them, if we're being honest. But somehow Josh was able to flip it and avoid it being either Wes going back into Wes going into an elimination. And I think you got to give Josh credit for that. His team
came up with the win. Team Red Flag won. I mean, a dub is a dub. They don't ask you how, right? They don't ask you how, but his team won the daily challenge. And hey, Josh doing his political game. It looks like next week it's going to get even more crazier, but at least in this week, Josh, man, you won this episode for me, man. Somehow, some way.
I don't disagree with any of those points. Like I said, I think if Desi didn't have such a strong episode, for me, it would have been Josh. He also loses points for being such a tall person.
He couldn't get to the other side.
The other side. I'm like, you're the biggest guy here. Like, you should just reach. Like, what are you doing?
It's fair. That is fair.
But I will say I was very close. I was very, very close. But I was like, no, like, it was her. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Totally fair.
Yeah, and I didn't have a line of the episode. I apologize.
No, this happens at times because we've been talking about it because the way that these seasons work, because it's shorter episodes and it's just more straight to the business, there's less room for either house shenanigans or, elaborated confessionals that get a lot more space and time to like be funny and, do what Bananas does type thing, so it doesn't happen as much. So we totally get it. That's what happens here.
But I'd say like I didn't have a line episode, but at the same time, can I take Corey dunking on Chris as my like line of episode?
Yes. Most definitely.
Because
most definitely.
That was by far. I did not see that coming. I thought, okay, he's gonna get it somehow or whatever, but like it was a straight on your head top.
Straight dunking. Chris did fuck around and find out, right?
Yes.
He found out indeed. And hopefully everyone listening to the pod found out that my guy LT came to deliver in our moment of need here on the You Killed It podcast. So I'd like to thank you for joining us as always on the You Killed It pod, LT.
I hope everyone's still here. I hope they didn't turn it on and see John was missing and just let's just skip to the end of this. I'll see these guys on Thursday.
Yes. No, that is not what happened at all. And we appreciate you jumping on for sure. Thank you. Are you a social people? Do you want to share social? Sure. Do you not want to share social? I don't know here.
You could find me on X-ish, Twitter-ish thing. At LTZ29. That's where I'm at. I mean, if you follow these guys, then you'll see me yell at them when I get a chance every now and again too. So
this is fair. This is totally fair.
It's hard. I will say it's something that I've been last season. I've been a little behind. So like I've been a lot of catch up. But yeah, you can find it. LTZ29 on Twitter, on Instagram, same thing as well. But
okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And as always, I try to tell people, if wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, we thank you. We appreciate you. You are the reason why this podcast still exists, because you, the listeners, are still out there sending us your comments, sending us your questions. We read them. We see them. We appreciate them so much. And all we ask in return is just bless us with the like, bless us with the share. We thank you for that. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander. We thank you once again for joining us on the podcast that is recapping the Challenge USA Season 2. Goes by the name of You Killed It. See you next time. You killed it.